I think it's impossible not to see Justin Welby's downfall as something that will hasten the collapse of the worldwide Anglican Communion. I should point out I'm not a member of the Anglican Church, so I'm looking on this as an outsider. But it's a religious tradition that I'm very much aware of. When I was studying in Oxford and places, I, I, I enjoy visiting churches of any denomination. I enjoy visiting religious sites of any denomination, of any culture, of any tradition. But Anglican churches, when they're open, I must say I like going in them. And the Archbishop of Canterbury's role as the global leader of 85 million Anglicans seems a little bit odd. And the crisis that he has now gone through, I think is going to knock over the row of dominoes. Justin Welby's stupidity has profound implications for the Church's future, its unity, and its global standing. His resignation was not a graceful exit, but a necessary one, and the Smith abuse scandal loomed large, painting Welby as a leader who failed in his personal and moral duties, and his inability to act decisively in safeguarding issues has left a bitter legacy, compounded by accusations of doctrinal inconsistency, particularly on same-sex relationships. Dr. Ian Paul, a member of the General Synod, put it bluntly, he broke the communion. Under Welby's leadership, the Church fractured along ideological lines. Traditionalist provinces in Africa, South America and Asia, which represent a majority of Anglicans, rejected his leadership over the Church of England's 2023 decision to bless same-sex unions, which I think, by the way, was the right decision, and the fallout was predictable, yet Welby appeared unprepared to navigate the storm, and his leadership and his authority was not sufficient to glue together the Anglican Communion. The fact that he has now fallen foul of basic honesty demonstrates absolutely that he was the wrong man for the job. And the Anglican Communion, therefore, is at a crossroads, and a report commissioned by global church leaders proposes ending the Archbishop of Canterbury's status as the de facto leader of global Anglicanism. And this post-colonial shake-up suggests that leadership should rotate among primates worldwide, reflecting the diversity of the communion. Surely the reality should be that the Anglican Communion, the worldwide Anglican Communion, should simply elect the next Archbishop of Canterbury from wherever they happen to be. So not unlike a papal election. In Welby's words, he says, "We're in a post-imperial era, and it is essential that the Church acts and looks post-imperial." But this shift could diminish the symbolic and practical significance of Canterbury, reducing its historical connection rather than the central hub of Anglican unity. For a church born in England, the potential loss of its global leadership feels like watching the dismantling of an institution by its very stewards. I'm not sure whether this is evolution or capitulation. And leadership within the Church of England has been likened to running 4 jobs simultaneously. Welby's tenure exposed the role's unsustainable nature. His temporary successor, the Archbishop of York, Stephen Cottrell, has already hinted that the responsibilities are overwhelming. And this workload is compounded by a lack of clear, visionary leadership candidates. And while names such as Bishop Sarah Mullally and Bishop Martin Snow are floated, the candidates either carry baggage or lack the charisma required to heal a fractured church. And some speculate that a reduced global role for Canterbury might pave the way for more progressive leadership, including potentially the first female archbishop. But the deeper issue lies not in selecting a leader, but in redefining what leadership means in the Anglican Communion. Should the Archbishop of Canterbury be chosen by a global vote, like a papal election, or that would be a radical departure, yet it could democratise the role and make it more of a representation of the Communion's diversity. The implications for these developments are vast. Without a unifying figure, the Anglican Communion will descend into further fragmentation, and traditionalist provinces, already emboldened, may assert greater independence. The Church risks becoming a loose federation of factions rather than a cohesive body united by shared faith and doctrine. Furthermore, the loss of Canterbury's global unity, global role, could weaken the Church of England's influence domestically. A leader seen as a mere administrator rather than a global spiritual figure may struggle to inspire the dwindling congregations in a secularised Britain. The Anglican Communion stands on the precipice, therefore, of change, but whether this change will save or shatter the Communion itself remains unclear. Welby's tenure has revealed the cracks and the ugliness of the system, but resignation, rather than fixing a problem, has left a vacuum, and perhaps it's time for the Church to reimagine its leadership, to embrace a truly global and inclusive vision. But without careful navigation, this post-colonial restructuring will lead to a post-Anglican reality. As Anglicans ponder their future, they must ask, does the Church need one face, one voice, one individual to represent it, or can it thrive more in diversity, with leadership that rotates around the continents, with different voices for different cultures? The coming years will reveal whether the Anglican Communion can adapt without losing its essence, or whether it will splinter into irrelevance.